using ACEs for. I really don't know how this works.
Okay. So let's start with the Civil Rights Study Guide. And let's go off of his first. So can somebody define for me, what do you call it, the what civil rights are?
Civil rights are like an inalienable rights that everyone has. So it's kind of like civil liberties, but you're born with civil liberties.
I'm sorry, what was the difference between civil liberties and civil rights?
Civil liberties protects you from the government, but you are born with civil rights. Like you may be born in a different country, and you immigrate to here, but you still have civil rights. If you're not a citizen, you still have civil rights. Everyone pretty much has it. I don't know if that's a good explanation or not. I know it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's a good building point for civil rights and the difference between civil rights and civil liberties. Could somebody else give me a better explanation of what civil rights include?
Yeah, civil rights is obligation imposed on government to take positive action to protect citizens from any illegal action of government agencies and other private citizens. That's basically like rights granted by the government. Civil rights granted by the government for the citizens that to protect basically from the government or any basically things in power to protect citizens.
Yeah, basically, so compared to let's say civil liberties where it's the freedom of speech and such, civil rights are more so like your right to vote, your citizen rights.
Yeah.
And those are things that the government needs to protect for you, both within government institutions and businesses within the U.S. because it affects trade law and everything. So, what is the Equal Protection Clause?
It guarantees citizens the equal protection of the law, and it's the basis of civil rights of African Americans, women, and other groups. So basically, everyone gets the same protection, no matter gender, no matter race.
Yeah, exactly. And
was that the basis of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and 65, or is that just more rounded? I'm just trying to make sure. Sorry about that.
Well, Angelina, where is this clause found?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I didn't write that part down.
14th Amendment.
Yeah, it's in the 14th Amendment.
All right. So that's
it's basically linked. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that's way before the Civil Rights Act of 65.
Mm-hmm. But it is what clause is the Civil Rights Act is based upon. And we'll get into that in a couple minutes. But Betty, could you tell us what the 14th Amendment is?
Yeah, one of the 3 Civil War amendments. It basically it abolished slavery.
Mm-hmm. And what was the second part of that amendment? Because there's really 2 big parts. There's that it ended slavery, it abolished slavery, and then it had the Equal Protection Clause, which is what we just stated.
Yeah.
It gives all citizens within the United States equal protection. And
no matter what.
This clause really applies to the state. Because before this clause, the Constitution was more directed toward what the federal government can do to citizens and stuff. And this Equal Protection Clause established precedent where states have to protect the civil rights of their minority groups, any type of group, essentially. So this happened because of laws that were put into place that disadvantaged certain groups and wasn't giving them equal protection through the state. So, is everybody clear on the Equal Protection Clause and 14th Amendment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what is strict scrutiny? This has to do with the cases that we looked at.
It's a test used by the Supreme Court,
Mm-hmm.
for racial discrimination.
Oh, it's also well, I think I sorry if I can find it. Too many guys.
Get a bit closer to your mic, Trainer, because we can't quite hear you.
All right. Let's see if that works. It also has to do with the God dang it. Supreme Court's justification of the Constitution, because it's only supposed to interpret the Constitution. It's not supposed to change it in any way. That's the Congress's job. But sometimes the interpretation of the Constitution, there's not. I'm reading a text about natural law and individual biases of justices and stuff like that, which has happened in the past where it's not strict. I can't think of the word strict.
Strict scrutiny, yeah. And so, basically, strict scrutiny is a level of analysis that Supreme Court justices need to have when they're dealing with civil rights cases.
So is this basically to determine if the situation breaks it or not, kind of for them to decide?
Yeah, essentially. And because this deals with highly sensitive subjects, they have to look at it with a very strict view of it.
Yeah. Well, with the text and both from our experience.
Get a bit closer to your microphone.
Sorry. With both from the text and from prior experience with classes, especially more, especially depending on what side you fall on, during the 1950s or 1960s, just black was a more progressive.
Buddy, can you mute yourself because you're making a lot of noise when you're moving your stuff? Okay, can you restart, Trainer? I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So, to restate my point, it really depends on what kind of justice falls under. An example would be Justice Black, who served during the 1950s and 60s, and a little bit past before he passed on because life terms. He was a very progressive, conservative justice. Ironically, yeah. But he ended up. He really depended on cases or Roe v. Wade or cases similar to Roe v. Wade when it had very hot button topics such as abortion. He would swing depending on. This would have to do. You have to do a little bit more research because this is from my memory and it's not the best memory.
And this sounds like you're talking more about judicial bias. And
judicial bias.
Right now we're just talking about strict scrutiny.
Oh, okay.
And we will go into more judicial processes when we do the judiciary branch. So right now we're going to stay at strict scrutiny. And does everybody understand what this is? Okay. All right. So from there, let's move on to affirmative action. What is affirmative action?
Oh boy, I don't like affirmative action.
Well, what is affirmative action, and then let us know why you don't like it, Trainer.
I can find the dang page. That would remind me a little bit better. God dang, I lost it. Okay, well then. Well, I don't want to sound like it. I'm just gonna re-look it up. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
It's basically
Sorry.
let's have Betty give us an objective definition of affirmative action then.
So the way I see it's basically like so if a group of people were like they were mistreated, for example, like Native Americans at one point were mistreated, the government makes basically sets in place the affirmative action, which creates, it's just basically more opportunities for them, basically saying, hey, we mistreated you. Here's some ways that you can better your education or some employment
Actually,
opportunities.
I want to kind of edit your definition. It's not so that they suffered something, is that they face institutional discrimination.
But the
So
I can see
throughout government institutions, these groups of people are disadvantaged because of institutional racism. And this is something that is built into our culture. And so to kind of amend that and balance it out, they give more spots essentially to students of these groups so that they actually have representation and opportunity within these government institutions so that they are not continually institutionally discriminated against. Does that make sense? Or
Oh, sorry.
what are you a bit confused on, Betty?
I'm sorry, I have to unmute myself. Yeah, I get you in a way. Yeah, I basically get you. I understand you.
Okay.
But the only thing that threw me off a little bit was like, so are you saying kind of more like people like, so whatever, they're disadvantaged? So for example, like in, oh my God, what's it called? In Richmond, it's environmental discrimination. They get more. They get some program, like the government set some programs in for them, not necessarily for education. So I'm kind of using it as an example. So like they set programs, like I guess programs like health wise because of the environmental discrimination that they're going through. They have all this asthma and stuff like that. So is it kind of like that, but like more so towards like education and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's kind of like
Okay.
that. So another way to put it would be that, okay, let's say that right now we're just doing affirmative action for, let's say, Latino students. And so historically, when people are going through admissions, they're normally going to be usually white males and stuff because those are the people who have these positions historically. And because of this, there is an amount of discrimination against people with different names and stuff like that. So let's say if they saw Gutierrez, they'd be like, oh, this person, we don't really like, I don't know if this person's going to be a good fit because their culture is different and everything. So that even though that Gutierrez may be a 4.0 student who does sports and all activities and everything, they're being discriminated against because of their last name. So to combat this, they are given more spots so that this kind of institutional racism doesn't keep them from that opportunity. Does that make sense?
So it's basically to keep them level with like I don't know, just keep them level with like.
Think of it this way: it's kind of like the GI Bill after World War II, because of after the fact that a lot of them were unemployed. It's basically to battle unemployment about the future generations. So after World War II, I think it was 7.8 million GIs were given the funding to go back to college and get an education so they can further themselves in fields such as engineering and the sciences. Same thing with not equal opportunity, Same thing with affirmative action. Affirmative action does the same way, but not with soldiers, but with races.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm gonna draw you guys a little like thing that might help you understand it a little bit better. See how my drawing skills are on doing with a mouse. So let's say this person, and then there's this person right here. So these are three people of varying height. And because of where they come, like because of their different heights, the tall person can easily see over the fence without any help. But the two shorter people need some help so that everybody can see equally. By giving the medium person one box, they can see the same amount as the tall person. And giving the short person two boxes, they can see the same amount as the tall person. So think of the boxes as giving aid to those groups or giving more opportunity so that they have the same advantages as the tall person has. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, can affirmative action be equated to like the No Child Left Behind from 2004?
I can't hear you, trainer.
Would affirmative action be equated to like No Child Left Behind done by the Bush administration, or is that less so? Because I'm just wondering.
You got to repeat that one more time.
Okay. I was wondering if affirmative action has to do with the No Child Left Behind laws made by the Bush administration, or is that a different case?
I know it happened around the same time, but they kind of had different goals in mind, I would say.
I was just wondering because the No Child Left Behind would be more like a contemporary case when affirmative action was made in 1961. So just making sure, because like I'm kind of getting confused on like the differences and similarities between the two.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really want to go into No Child Left Behind because it's kind of an outdated policy. So
you have Common Core now, so
yeah. But No Child Left Behind was a policy to help people from falling behind in school, essentially, by kind of keeping everybody else back. So I wouldn't say it's too much like affirmative action. Affirmative action is more for pushing everyone forward.
oh my back.
But yeah, okay. So I think we've spent enough time on affirmative action. You guys all good on it?
Yep.
Okay. So let's talk about the whatchamacallit, the three cases that you guys were supposed to read.
Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, so what was Roe v. Wade about?
Abortion. To put it bluntly, I guess.
And what was the issue?
If the person has the right to contraception, so not even abortion, it's just like, can a person use a condom? Like, can condoms be sold or birth control be sold in a public forum without it? This was back then when like religion was a lot bigger issue. Conceptualizing. Yeah, you know what I mean. The gist
Yeah.
of
And what was the ruling of this case?
it ruled towards Roe, right? Roe. It allowed for the selling of contraception. Yeah, I can't talk. It allowed for the selling of contraception. If I read it correctly.
And then, do you know why? What was the justification for ruling pro-contraception? Does anybody else know?
I can't find it. States and interest and potential of the compelling point of viability. That's just more to actual. Oh, it's
Wasn't
just-
it a problem kind of with privacy as well, that people can do whatever they want in their own privacy? It doesn't, like, the government doesn't have the authority to rule on that.
Yeah, right to privacy. And I mean, control over your own body should be a private matter, essentially. So being able to use contraception for your own private body, it's okay because you have the right to that. And that is a civil right. It's not something that either the federal government or the state or anybody else can infringe upon. Okay, so whatchamacallit? What do you guys feel good with Roe v. Wade?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Let us move on to
versus the Board of Education, or Brown versus the Board of Education.
Brown v. Board of Education. Now, can somebody besides Trainer, Betty, and Angelina tell me what this was about?
Where are you writing? Oh, found it. Sorry, it's because I'm taking notes at the same time, and I had them in like split screens, and I'm like, where are you writing this?
So, can anybody give me a little synopsis about Brown v. Board of Education? Somebody that hasn't spoken to yet today? Neil, do you know?
Wasn't it that all people are supposed to have like the same education?
Yeah, the issue was segregation.
Yeah.
And why was this, obviously we know that segregation was repealed, but why was it repealed?
Like, what do you mean?
So what was the argument in Brown v. Board of Education that they used to repeal segregation?
Wasn't it like they weren't getting the they weren't getting the same like treatment in schools?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like fair.
And looking at our amendments and our clauses here, do any of them apply to that?
Isn't it the 14th Amendment?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, through the Equal Protection Clause. As you said, Black children in Black schools weren't getting the same education that white children in white schools were getting because they were institutionally disadvantaged. They weren't given the same kind of school supplies. They weren't given the same kind of teachers who had the same amount of training. So they weren't being equally protected. You guys all feel comfortable with this? Okay. Now we had one more case, I believe. Right?
Yeah, we had Nixon versus the. Oh, God damn it. Nixon versus. Ah, damn it. Nixon versus United States versus Nixon.
Oh wait, no, it was Lawrence v. Texas.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm just going. I said 608.
It was about the homosexuals.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I just read straight through. Sorry about that then. My bad.
And so, Betty, what was the issue here?
I got a little confused because it was almost the same story, and then I brought in a new story. But my understanding so far was the point is, like I think it was a type of authority, like law enforcement authority, went to a guy's house and he was having sexual intercourse with his partner. But that's what I understood. And basically, like they got arrested and everything, and like they got actually, I think they got thrown in jail, and it was like some dumb, like, I don't know, I forgot what it said. It was like some dumb reason, like they named it this dumb thing. I don't know. I remember it got me mad, so I kind of that's what probably why I blocked it out of my mind.
Texas Penal Code and 221.06 A 2000.
Yeah, so the issue here is that sodomy is illegal in Texas, and sodomy is anal sex. And they made that illegal because that is something that is almost exclusively done by homosexuals, because that's the way that they engage in sex. So, by doing this, they are singling out a class of people and discriminating against them rather than giving them equal protection, which is due to them under the 14th Amendment.
I didn't know that it meant that. I thought it was just like a relation, just being in with like another person, like another gender. So I learned something new right now. I thought that's what it meant. I thought that's what whatever it is, sodomy meant.
So that actually goes back to a little biblical reference. There's the two towns of Sodom and Gomorrah, and they were two towns full of sinful things, and so God damned them and struck them down. So to be a sodomite is to be somebody who does sinful things, such as anal sex, because to lie with a man is against the Bible in some scripture. It depends on your translation and everything. So the reason why this was an issue under national law was because it singled out a particular group of citizens, and discriminated against them.
Yeah, the reading pointed out that like the guy just went in, like no one questioned how the person with authority went into his house.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know how you're supposed to have like a warrant or whatever, like they totally brushed that off just because of the fact of what they were doing was illegal.
Yeah, so they were able to brush off not having a warrant because they said, oh, we had a suspicion of illegal activity, and then there they were having sex, which was an illegal activity at the time.
Well, you're taking criminal justice too, so you should realize that if there are ways around warrants if you have like there's a word for it. The suspicion, if you can see it through the window,
Mm-hmm.
through window you can break in without having a warrant. Same thing. Maybe you saw it through the window, saw them doing sodomy, and broke through the door without a warrant. There's ways around it. The court's not as perfect as you think it is.
Mm-hmm. And those ways around it and such are one of the reasons why people have issues with our police departments currently. But that's a whole other issue for another day. So do you guys feel comfortable with these 3 cases and their issues?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. If there's anything that you want me to stop, then just let me know. So let's go to, whatchamacallit? Let's go to the 5/5 clause. Did you guys all read that article?
Okay, that's not the no. Wait.
What did you say again, Vanessa?
I said the 5/5 clause.
The 5.
Oh,
I read. Oh,
Or
this
what?
one was about like the census.
Mm-hmm.
How it was a little confusing, but the point is there was a lot. Like 1,400 women were added to a census, and they knew that those 1,400 women didn't exist, or those 1,400 women came from elsewhere. They still counted them in their census. It was a little confusing, but that's kind of what I understood as I read.
Okay, let me let's go back a bit and let me kind of give you the premise of this issue. So, in New York, in like upstate New York and stuff like that, it's not a very heavily populated area. So they were like, okay, this is a good place to set up a prison because if a prisoner escapes, then we can easily catch them because they're going to be in a low population area. They'll easily stand out. Another positive thing for putting a prison right there, what they thought, was, hey, we're adding 141 new people to our population, and they can't vote, but we get the numbers. So our opinions are going to matter more. Because essentially, their vote is being amplified by the prisoner's presence, because the prisoners aren't voting, but they still. So essentially, if I was a citizen in like the town next to the prison, my vote would count for like 2 people because I'm taking over the vote of that one person. Because our population size is being increased, so we're going to have more representation through the House of Representatives because our district is going to be bigger. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You look a little confused, Betty.
Yeah, so basically they took the vote of the prisoners?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, how is this a matter of civil rights?
You're deciding for someone else, even though even though they're inmates. Like in this case, even though they're inmates, they're still, most of them are still citizens.
Mm-hmm.
In all reality, you can't. I don't think it's fair to vote twice.
Yeah, exactly. And this is changing how much your vote counts compared to a town over. So, yeah, and then this will we'll probably reflect back on this article when we talk about gerrymandering, which is a couple weeks away, so don't worry about that. So do you guys all feel comfortable with this 5/5 clause?
Go over gerrymandering and districting. Oh boy.
Yeah, that's going to be a couple weeks from now.
Oh jeez. Oh man, I'm not gonna enjoy that. I'm sorry.
Nobody does.
So that was basically it, right? For that one, it was just basically that.
Yeah, and like Terror in the Skies just kind of highlights Islamophobia and assumptions that people make
Yeah. Okay. So what I don't understand was this is a simple question. The people. So it talked about 1,400 new women. Did they
Mhm.
actually exist, or like that's what I'm like? That's what I got lost. Like, were those 1,400 people made up, or were they from another town? Is that how you're talking about? They were from another town and they were able to vote for the
No,
inmates.
they're prisoners. These 1,400 women are the prisoners in the prison.
Oh, I got you now.
Yeah, and
I
so
got,
the town over is essentially taking those 1,400 women's votes
oh,
because
gotcha.
as prisoners, they by committing a criminal act, they lost their right to vote.
Oh.
And really, neither of them nor the citizens of the town over should be having that power. Okay, and so do you guys all feel comfortable with civil rights?
Mhm.
Okay, then let us move on to direct democracy. So,
I have a question.
yeah, go for it.
My inside's civil rights, right? I'm just making sure if I read it right because I've been working on it for like a few days now, and I was like, I feel bad if I get screwed.
What
Just
is yours due tomorrow?
or 9 o'clock tonight, yeah.
Yeah, then you're supposed to do it on civil rights.
Okay, I'm just asking because
Mhm.
I was wrong. I could still do a 180 and fix it.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm gonna tell you guys something that I did when I took this class. So I was a studio student, and because the essays were due at 9, and I worked better on a time crunch, I would start my essay at 7.
Yeah, I know, right? Same. I did the research all yesterday, and I'm doing it right now. So if I look like I'm not paying attention, it's bad. I actually am.
All right,
I'm not
so
watching YouTube. But yeah.
let's move on to direct democracy. So, can somebody define for me who the progressives were?
Progressives, or do you want me to talk, or do you want somebody else to talk?
Sure,
Sorry.
go.
All right.
Who are the progressives in California?
Oh, the progressives. I thought you were just saying the Progressive Party in general.
Nope, progressives in California.
Ah, okay.
Because we're doing direct democracy.
Okay. The progressives are like the people that are for like that are or no, I'll just shut up. Somebody else say it. I can't. Yeah, I can't talk.
All I wrote for progressives was that they have one goal of making the government more responsive to the political, social, and economic concerns of the people. So I don't know if you want something more specific than that.
Yeah, that's essentially what they wanted. Like they said, they wanted to give the power back to the people for politics and economics because they wanted to end the domination of big businesses in California and the way that they were able to influence interest groups with their money. And this was happening. Do you guys remember from like your history lessons about the railroad companies when they first started out in America?
Yeah.
So these I'm not seeing all nods, so I'm gonna just say the railroad companies when they first started had a monopoly in basically whatever region they started to set up in, so they could charge whatever prices they wanted to.
Well,
So,
also, oh, sorry. Can I add something to that?
yeah, sure.
They were also own a tract of land that a tract of land. That's ironic. They would also own a piece of land, like I think it was either 3/4 or a mile from either side of a railroad, and usually towns would grow out next to the railroads. So those boon towns were technically partially owned by the railroads as well. So they were making a lot of money really quick. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And so, because of these big businesses having these monopolies over towns and the railroad companies, they were able to influence politics and policies that they wanted to be put in place that would help them as business people.
Stanford. Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
So, progressives came up with a direct democracy system, which is, can somebody explain what direct democracy is?
Democracy is where everyone votes. So it's kind of opposite from the republic, where you elect other people to vote for you.
Yeah, exactly. Your vote is the vote that decides on an issue. You're not voting for a representative to then decide for you. So, through this direct democracy, there became three political processes that help to give the people more power. And they are the initiative, the recall, and the referendum. Can somebody tell me what an initiative is? Look in your Governing California book. I think over on page 24-ish.
Sorry.
We weren't assigned We the People, were we?
No, this is all in Governing California.
Oh, right, the other little book. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So I've been kind of focusing on the previous books. Sorry, what was the term you said before?
What's an initiative? Another word for it is called a proposition.
Okay.
Oh, proposition is like an act voted on by directly by the people, kind of like Prop 8 was voting for gay marriage or
Yeah, so
not. There it is. Sorry, I forgot the term. I remember the other term.
it's a citizen proposed policy. Usually in a policy area that citizens don't think that the legislature has addressed yet. So, like Trainer said, Prop 8 was a proposition to ban gay marriage in California, and that passed, but then was repealed by the U.S. Supreme Court because it was deemed unconstitutional. An upcoming proposition is Prop 63 or 64, which is the proposition to legalize marijuana. So that itself was a proposition that the citizens started rather than it coming from the legislature.
Oh, I was just gonna say like Prop 54, which is for like raising education for students.
Yeah.
Raising the prices for education. That would, yeah, I was gonna say that. Oh, sorry. The
And so,
temporary one. Sorry.
yeah, and that's a really good one. So I'm going to be going a little quicker now because we have 5 minutes left. So what's a referendum?
It allows voters to approve or reject statutes or amendments passed by the state legislative.
Yep. Voters can approve or deny a policy the legislature passed. And then what is a recall?
Like products where they would just place a new order above that one. Kind of.
Think in a political context. Who would you be recalling?
Elected officials from office.
So voters get to vote on an elected official uh, uh, um, and say whether they're doing their job or not. If they are, they're not going to be recalled. But if they aren't doing their job, then they are going to be recalled because, hey, it's a bad product. We're going to recall it.
Is that like a local government's version of an impeachment?
Yeah, essentially. It's state government's version of impeachment.
Oh,
Is
okay.
a good way to think about it, but
Is
with
that not
less
done by-
processes.
Oh, so it's not done by the state legislature, like the actual impeachment is?
Nope, this is done by the people.
That's interesting.
And this gives the power to the people rather than giving it to the legislature.
True.
So, these are the 3 reforms that the progressives were able to put into place. Know them, memorize them, be good with them.
Initiative, referendum, recall.
So basically, recall is they can basically try to take someone out of office. Basically, is that how it works?
Yeah. So, actually, the governor before Schwarzenegger was recalled because he wasn't doing a good enough job as a governor. So, voters put in an initiative to recall him, and it got on the ballot, and we ended up voting as a state to recall that governor. So then we had to have new elections for a governor, and then we got the governator.
How did that happen? I don't know.
It's the same way that Ronald Reagan got to be a senator than president.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Same reason why Trump got his popularity.
Oh, yeah. I
If
remember
you're in
this.
the public eye, you're going to be more successful in government, especially if you haven't made any political statements before and people just know you from a character that you've done. So they're like, oh, it's this character running, basically.
I remember for the longest time in the Simpsons movie, they made the joke that like Schwarzenegger was going to be president. The Simpsons were doing that for years.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's because it's the way that Ronald Reagan went. He actually, I meant that he wasn't a senator; he was the governor of California, and then he became president.
Nice. That's cool.
But okay, so can somebody define Proposition 13?
It reduced property tax rates on homes, businesses, and farms by about 57%.
And why did they do this?
I'm not sure.
Why do you,
To give like subsidies to farmers, so it gives them more of an incentive to keep working because farmers live on like a hand to mouth.
yeah, and because California is a majority agricultural state, even though our populations are concentrated in the San Francisco Bay Area and the Los Angeles area. Speaking as a person from the agricultural Central Valley, yeah, it definitely giving that kind of subsidies to farmers is really important because they do live from harvest to harvest and from harvest via credit to harvest. So
Another question about the inside. Is it okay if I like set up a PowerPoint so I can have like some kind of background information going around? Because I know we don't really go from person to person, but just like as a special case. Because tomorrow I kind of have to leave a little earlier. I was gonna talk to Professor Freeman about it in my email. But I have to leave like 15 minutes, a little bit earlier, because I have to go. My boss is like kind of on me. Get to work early on Tuesdays. I don't know why. I need to talk to her about it, but
okay,
yeah.
so
Sorry.
I would say if you want to use like the PowerPoint thing, print it out and bring it with you to use it, but we won't be able to put it on the
Okay.
slide and
Also,
stuff like that. And email him and let him know that you have to leave 15 minutes early because of work.
yeah, I just wanted to do like a more formal presentation because that's just the way I'm used to. If not, it's fine. I'm sorry.
No, we're doing informal presentations.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Either way,
You're going to have a conversation with me.
Nice.
It's not bad. I mean, you should, yeah. Basically, just talking about your paper, so you shouldn't have to prepare. Basically, your preparation is writing your insight.
Yep.
If you wrote your insight correctly, you know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Basically.
Brother-in-laws, yo, it's not touched upon. I was trying to be like, I was trying to use sources that weren't exactly from the text as well, because the text is kind of things you hear throughout high school. I was trying to go through things that weren't exactly.
I would say, as a grade, try to draw mostly from the sources that we give you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Yeah, because I kind of wanted to touch on like Cesar Chavez and like during the 1980s they gave money, or they gave subsidies back to the Japanese citizens that were interned in Germany.
Just get your sources and just back up your information, and you'll be good.
Okay, I just wanted to like not give a carbon copy of everybody else's presentation.
Yeah, I totally understand. Okay, so do you guys have any other questions about civil rights or direct democracy?
I have a quick question. The 3 terms that you have on there, are they called the 3 progressives? Something like, you said something about that?
I would say these are the 3 reforms that the progressives put into place.
Okay.
As you see here on the study guide, it says be able to describe the reforms.
Yeah.
These are the 3.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I would probably give a wink and a nudge for that tomorrow. Like,
yeah, no, this is most likely going to be your question. It's either going to be what are the reforms that the progressives put in place, or define probably 2 of the 3 cases that you guys had to read.
Hopefully.
Which is why I wanted to go over them with you.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right then. Is it concluding or?
Yep. As long as there's no more questions, then I'll let you guys go.
One question.
Yeah, go.
So like my phone like completely froze when you're talking about the 5/5 clause.
Oh,
So is it like the vote? I'm still like kind of confused about it.
So these 1,400 women are in a prison that are right next to a small town, and the vote, and so the census is counting both the prisoners and the citizens of the town. What's wrong is the prisoners don't get to vote, so counting them in the census gives the that town unequal representation, because they're essentially saying what we need more representation because we have more people, but really these people aren't being given their civil rights.
Think of the 3/5 compromise with the Great Comedy. It kind of works the same way, where they don't get the vote, they count them as people.
Yeah, it's very much like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Constitutionality for you, right there.
Does that clear it up a bit more for you?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, and then I know we kind of went back over it too when we were talking about it when you were frozen. So the video should be up around 8 because I have to convert it and then upload it to YouTube. So it takes a little bit of time, but I would say just go back over that a little bit.
Okay.
So for this side, do I just send it to you or do I send it to Professor Friedman?
Both of us.
Both. Okay, I send it to
Because I need to read it and he needs to read it.
via Gmail or via
Send it to me Gmail.
Gmail? Okay.
It says it on his website.
Okay. I was just wondering. I'm just making sure because I just finished it. So I'll probably look over it again and turn it in by like 7 or something, or 8. Yeah, 8. 8 sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right then. See you guys tomorrow. GG.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Wait, how do I leave? Oh, no. There it is. All right.